Your book isn't going to sell many copies, and it doesn't need to. It sounds like a strange thing for a publisher to say, but almost every expert who decides not to write a book makes that decision for the same reason. They run the numbers on a $20 book, work out they have to sell tens of thousands of copies to make it worthwhile, then conclude that it is not worth their time. Now, the reasoning, I get it, it's correct, and it's also completely besides the point. Because the value of a book to an expert was never in the amount of copies it sells. It's in the next 10 minutes where I'm going to show you exactly how a book brings you clients, even ones that barely sell, and why it's the single highest leverage asset you can build in a service business. I'm Blake DeVos, I'm the founder of Impact Group Publishing, where we help experts become published authors in 6 months. And I've watched so many coaches, consultants, and business owners use a book to create more impact, income, and influence in their industry. By the end of this video, you'll understand the actual mechanism behind that. It's not theory, it is the specific way a book moves someone from never having heard of you before to wanting to work with you, and what makes it outperform every other piece of marketing you're currently doing. The first thing to understand is what a book actually does in a service business, because most people get this wrong from the start. They treat the book like a product, a thing you sell for money sitting alongside your course, your coaching, your consulting. Now, under that frame, the book has to earn its keep through sales, and it never will, so they never write it. A book in a service business, it's not just a product, it is a positioning asset. So its job is not to make money directly. Its job is to change how every potential client perceives you before they ever speak to you. Once you make that shift in your thinking, every decision about the book changes and the economics stop looking ridiculous and they start looking obvious. The clearest way to think about this is a book is kerosene on a fire you've already built. So the fire is your business, the book just doesn't replace it, it makes the whole thing burn hotter and reach further every day. Now here's how it works in practice. So a book sits at the very top of your pipeline, and it is often the first contact a future client ever has with you. So picture the person you most want to work with. They have the exact problem you solve, and right now they don't know you exist. So one night they're searching for answers to that problem, and your book appears for $20 and the price of their attention. They're now inside your thinking. Now that is the part most marketing can't buy. So you haven't run an ad, you haven't sent a single message, a stranger has voluntarily picked up the most complete explanation of your expertise that exists, and they're consuming all of it. So the book did that while you were asleep, and it will keep doing it every day it's in the market. Now the most important part, what happens inside the reader's mind as they go through it. So a typical book is somewhere between 3 to 5 hours for reading. So for 3 to 5 hours, your future client is alone with your thinking. You're explaining your method, your perspective, the way you diagnose their problem, the mistakes you see people make. Now there is no other format in your business where someone gives you that much uninterrupted attention. So by the time they finish, 2 things have happened. One, they no longer see you as one option among many. They see you as the person who wrote the definitive thing on their problem, and they've experienced your expertise rather than just being told about it. Now that combination is what marketers spend fortunes trying to manufacture, and a book produces it as a byproduct of being read. So when the reader eventually reaches out, the conversation is fundamentally different. They're not comparing you against 3 competitors. They're not asking you to prove yourself. They've already decided. The only question left is how to begin. So let me show you this working in a real business, mine. I use my book, Publish to Impact, to generate leads into my business's CRM every single day. Now I don't sell it, I actually give it away for free. Now it sounds backwards for a publisher to say, but it's the most deliberate lead generation tool I have. So someone thinking about writing a book comes across it, they download it, they read it, and in doing that, they don't just get my framework, they get me, they get who I am, they get how I think, how I work, the way I approach the entire process as well. So by the time they finish, they already understand what working with us looks like because they've effectively just spent hours with the book. Now that's the exact mechanism I've just described running in my own business, and giving the book away for free simply puts it at the top of the pipeline on purpose, instead of waiting for somebody to stumble across it. So once the book is sitting at the top of your pipeline, it changes 3 numbers that matter, and it changes all of them at once. First, your close rate. So people arrive pre-sold, so a far higher percentage of conversations turn into clients. Second, your pricing. So you're no longer positioned as a coach or a consultant competing on price, you're positioned as the authority who wrote the book and command a premium without having to justify it. Third, your inbound. So the book reaches people your content and your network never could, working as a permanent searchable asset that finds clients on its own. And the critical thing here is that nothing about your actual offer changed. So you have the same service, the same delivery, the same you. The book simply alters how people perceive all of it before the conversation starts. So let's just go back now to that $20 book, because once you understand the positioning, the economics invert completely. So forget royalties, picture 1,000 people reading your book over a year. So like a modest, realistic number for a well-positioned book in a defined niche. So you will not get rich on the book sales, and it doesn't matter, because even if a small fraction of those 1,000 readers become clients, and a client is, let's say, worth $10, $20, $50,000 to your business, the book has paid for itself many times over. So that's the reframe. A book monetizes through the clients it produces, not the copies it sells. Now, every other reader who doesn't become a client is still building your authority, spreading your name, and reinforcing your position at no extra cost to you. So there is no other marketing asset with that economic profile. Now, at this point, a fair objection. You already produce content, posts, videos, emails. Isn't that doing the same job? And the distinction matters. So the content makes you known. A book makes you trusted. Now, they're not the same currency, because a post is going to live for roughly a day before the algorithm buries it and asks for very little attention. So it builds very little depth. But a book persists for years, and it demands real engagement, and that engagement is what produces trust. So now I want you to consider the language people use. Nobody opens with a conversation with, "I saw your post." They open with, "Oh, I read your book." Now, one of those statements reorders your entire relationship. So content keeps you visible, but a book makes you the authority. Now, you want both, but you want to lead towards the book, because that's what's going to get the most value. Now, if everything so far has landed, the natural next thought is, that's fine for people who can write a book, but I'm not a writer. Now, here's why that's the wrong worry. If you've run a business for a few years, you already have the book inside you. You have a methodology, you've got a process you can walk every client through. Each step of the process is a chapter in your book. The problem it solves is your premise. The transformation your clients get is your promise. The results you've accumulated, they're your proof. So the entire book already exists. Now, the work then isn't generating something new, it's organizing what's already there into a form a reader can follow without you being in the room. Now, that's a fundamentally different task from writing a book, and it's a far smaller one than most experts assume. So the question stops being whether a book is worth it. It starts becoming how to build one that actually does this. One positioned to bring clients rather than sit on a shelf. So that's the work we do at Impact Group Publishing. We take the expertise already in your head and we turn it into a properly positioned book, professionally published in 6 months, without you having to become a writer to do it. So before you go and start writing, the most expensive mistake in this whole process is building the wrong book, where you spend 6 months on a book that's too broad or poorly positioned and it won't bring you a single client, it'll just sit there. The positioning has to be right before a word gets written. So I built a tool to check this exactly out. It's called the Author Readiness Scorecard. It takes about 2 minutes and it's going to tell you whether your book idea is positioned to bring in clients or whether it needs sharpening first. It's free. The link is in the description below, and I'd do that before anything else. If this was useful, subscribe. Every video on this channel is about helping you use a book to create more impact, income, and influence inside your industry.